you're one of the best traders out there who is able to generate 10% per month. That's pretty unrealistic to be consistent, but I'm assuming you are one of the best ones. Now, even if you are able to generate 10% on that capital, that accounts to 10,000 rupees. Now, if you are residing into any metro location or anywhere, it's pretty obvious that the rents would be at least 5 to 6,000, even if you are staying into a court basis or anything. I am assuming, let's say it's 5,000 rupees, your food and other expenses is, even if you are frugal, it goes around 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees. And then your bills, emergency and all those things. So this way you're going to put undue psychological pressure on your head. So it's very, very important that you need to have a backup capital. The obvious question is for how many days or weeks or something. My ideal answer is have a backup capital for at least 3 years. Now, what does this include? Your capital should include the rents which you are going to pay in the next 3 years. Okay. It should include any major expense which you feel it's going to come. If you have taken loan, I wouldn't suggest you to directly jump into full-time trading until and unless you have actually paid it off. So that's the third thing. Fourth thing, you need to keep some emergency fund. So let's do a quick maths out there. Let's say you are a bachelor who knows who is not going to get married for the next 5 years. I'm just assuming 4 years. Let's say you're not going to get married. So now how you're going to calculate? So let's say 5,000 or 6,000 as rent, your system, your internet connection and all those expenses, let's say close to 3,000, including all the equipments and all these stuff. So that's almost 8,000, your food and all those things, at least 3 to 4,000. That's coming around 12,000 rupees. Plus you add some miscellaneous expenditure, maybe some medicines or you get ill or anything for that matter. So complete is like 15,000 a month is an expenditure which you need to keep per month. So 15 into 12, that is for 1 year, would come around 1.8, and 1.8 lakh into 3 is exactly what you need to keep aside other than the main capital. But now the obvious question into your main head would be that, hey Abhishek, you are saying that close to 5 to 6 lakh rupees in this particular example which we are taking. If you have a family, this amount would go up. Now you're saying, Abhishek, you're saying 5 to 6 lakhs untouched backup capital. Now, if we really had that sort of capital, why would we definitely prefer to become a full-time career as a full-time trader? The reason is, again, because this is just the start. If you want to aspire and get good amount of freedom in life, eventually you have to do all these adjustments. And the second thing, you need to ask yourself, what if for one particular year the markets go sideways and if you're not able to make any sort of return? Don't you think you will get frustrated? And that's why you need to have a backup capital. Now, some of you might have done your maths that, okay, Abhishek, when you are saying that 4 to 5 lakh rupees should be into the backup capital, and then let's say we assume, although we are going to discuss how much capital is required, but we are assuming that, okay, we keep 5 lakh rupees into our trading or demat account. That comes to 10 lakh rupees. Oh my God, 10 lakh is such a big amount. How do we manage this? So here's an answer, my dear friends. Get your active income first. Now, in today's time, even if you're a fairly decent person, above average, even if you're doing engineering from a decent college, even if it's not a tier 1 college, the average package which most of the people land up through the college, if they have studied a little, is between 4 to 5 lakh CTC approx. Okay, I'm assuming that in today's time, and of course this is going to increase every now and then, you make 35,000 every month. You being bachelor, so passionate about becoming a full-time trader, let's say you start saving 20,000 rupees a month, trying to cut off your expenses, trying to cut off the parties and all those things. 20,000 into 12 is 2.4 lakh rupees, 2.4, and plus you will get hikes, increments and bonus. I'm not even counting those things. The kind of capital we are looking after within 3.5 years of job, even assuming that you just get 5 to 10% of increment every year, your job is done. And let's face it out, today's time, a lot of IT grads or mechanical engineers, they don't stick to one single company. So the hike could be even higher when you're trying to switch the company. Some people even get 30, 40, 50%. And I have taken the worst scenario. Now let's assume you're from a good college, topmost college. The average package where these people are actually starting is between 10 to 12 lakh per annum in hand. So your thing is already done. So I've given both the cases out there. This is exactly what you need to. So define that first. You need to have an active income. Now, some of you, I really don't want to do a job, man. I can't work for a boss. No worries. With the advent of technology, you have internet. Start working as a freelancer. Try to get your hands dirty first. Try to earn some bucks out there. Try to understand all these things. In the meanwhile, you can focus in understanding the markets. So this is the next thing. Next, you have to build a consistent trading portfolio for at least 2.5 years. What does this mean? A lot of people want to become a full-time trader just because of the urge of watching so many people on social media who are turning out good fat packages and becoming full-time traders. That's a wrong approach. You first have to be consistent, because my point is as simple as that. Until unless you have not seen a consistency in your profits month on month, I'm not saying daily you have to be profitable. Even if you are into loss for 10 days in that particular month, but in the last 5-6 days, if you're able to recover and become positive, that's a good sign. You have to have a 2.5 years time. Why? Because first, you may not be in a position to understand the complete market cycle in just 3 to 4 months. So if you've just seen the markets for 3 to 4 months and you decide now I want to become a full-time trader, it could turn out to be a very, very heavy mistake. That's number one. Second thing which you got to do is, once you have understood that, okay, I am actually now trying to become a good trader at this point of time, you now can see volatility into the markets. For example, you would see some war kind of situation where the volatility goes up, then some pandemic kind of situation. So you'll have more experience, more screen time, more ways to think how to manage your risk, because ultimately full-time trading is not that easy. Also, it could be stressful if you don't know all these consequences and when to manage your risk, how to manage those things. So that's the reason why you need to spend almost 2.5 years doing these things. Next is very, very important. You need to start journalizing everything. Journalizing in the sense, you can maintain a copy. Like I personally used to write it down. A lot of people prefer spreadsheets and Excel. A few people might question, what is journalizing? Journalizing is basically you are keeping a track of all the trades you are taking on a particular day. You may not write it while the markets are open, but once the market closes, the first thing at 3:30 you got to do is start journalizing. Or if you are a full-time employee at the first who is eventually thinking to transit into a full-time trader, now in that case you can do this thing in the evening, but make sure you do it every day. Why? Because we often try to overestimate the human brain. We think that we can remember almost everything. To all intents and purposes, that's not the reality, my dear friend. A lot of us have very tiny brains. Ask yourself while viewing this thing, what did you have in your breakfast 3 months back? Forget about 3 months. What did you have in your lunch 2 days back? And I'm pretty sure you got the answer what I'm trying to say. So we feel that we remember a lot of things, but unfortunately we don't. So it's better to write down what was the best trade, what was the worst trade, how many points you made, what's the net profit out there, where your demat is heading, because when you are journalizing, you are able to monitor. When you are able to monitor, you will be able to progress. So this is something which you really need to do. Now, every full-time trader at some point of time was a part-time trader, and it's very important that while you are on that process of transition from a part-time trader to a full-time trader, you should be giving at least 3 hours every day. Now, some of you might ask, we don't have time. That's the biggest myth. Let's assume that, although it's not a time management session, but let's assume you are sleeping for 7 hours a day. Out of 24 hours, 17 is left. Let's say you're working for 10 hours. I'm assuming you're left with 7 hours. Food, travel, eating, commute, everything, 3 hours goes over there. You're still left with decent amount of time for learning. Now, I also add 1 or 2 hours of recreation. You're still left with this thing. So the point is, it depends on how badly you need to do this thing. I used to do it. I still remember I used to read and create plot charts and all those things for close to 7 to 8 hours for pretty good amount of time, even while working. So this is something which I would also suggest you people, that yes, if you are really willing to become a full-time trader, you need to do it at the initial stages. At least later on, it could go down to 1 hour per day, but learning never stops. Then keep reading about technical analysis. There are some really fantastic books. For example, a book on Japanese candlesticks by Steve Neeson. Then there is a book called The Technical Analysis by Joseph Murphy, Joe Murphy. That's also a very good book. So there are a couple of good books out there. PDFs are also available. You need to keep on upgrading your technical analysis skill, because as a full-time trader, it's not fundamentals which are going to play a major role, but the pivotal role will be played by the technical analysis part. So it's very, very, very crucial that you understand the technical analysis part. Sacrifice parties. I've done a lot in the past, but now I've reached that position. I don't need to sacrifice any of those things. So why I'm saying is because when you are just starting up to become a full-time trader, parties, hanging out with friends very frequently actually sucks up. This is the harsh reality, but it sucks up a lot of your time. It sucks up a lot of your attention, focus, and also money. So and for becoming a full-time trader, at least in the initial few years, these are the most essential commodities which you need to preserve. So if you really want to preserve those things, you need to sacrifice all these temptations, at least at the initial stages. Then join the community. Being a trader is a lonely profession. Now you would say that, come on, this is contradictory to you just said that sacrifice parties, and now you're saying community. Communities of traders. Now there are plenty of options these days available. Twitter is one platform. Discord servers are another platform. So there are plenty of platforms where you can actually be a part of trading communities. And I would insist, because you will get some ideas out there, how others are doing. If something is wrong with you, you will have someone from the same community to talk about these things. And sometimes trading is such a lonely profession that you might start getting depressed at some point of time. Even while you're making profits or something, you might feel that something is missing. So this is one bad aspect, at least for full-time trader in the initial years. But this is, with the technology, it has become fairly easy to join some communities and resolve these issues. So this is something, and you have to prepare for at least a 3-month drawdown. Why? As I mentioned, that's one of the reasons why you need to have backup capital, because you never know. You can have just like people have winning streak, you can have a losing streak also. And when you are having a losing streak, it's very important that you are able to restrain yourself from doing any silly mistakes. And for that reason itself, mentally be prepared that, okay, even if there is a 3-month drawdown, the kind of percentages which I'm going to make in the next 9 months will be fairly good to keep me alive, to keep me surviving into this jungle. Now, people ask, should we become a part-time trader or a full-time trader? See, any full-time trader in the initial days has been a part-time trader. So whenever I even started, so I'll give you my examples. For example, when I started with trading, so of course I was in college, but when I started getting serious about this thing, initially I was doing job, then I did some corporate trainings in the sense, some leadership sessions and all those things. Why? Yes, of course, I liked public speaking, but the main motive was to earn some bucks which I could eventually invest. So I talked about active income. There are plenty of ways through which you can do. That was my way in my times to do that thing. So this is something which I did. So initially everyone is a part-time trader who ultimately becomes a full-time trader. Now the question is whether you should prefer to become a part-time trader or full-time trader. That's an individualistic choice, but let me just quickly run you through what could be the advantage and disadvantage. If you're a part